I have $15 in a bag. For every walk I take, my dog won. My mom gives me $5. The now next equation for this would be now next equals now plus 5, and the start is 15. And you use this to make the explicit equation by taking the 5 and putting it in front of the x and then adding 15 from the start. For the table, you just add 5. For the predictions, the first question is, after how many walks will I have $80? So you take the equation y equals 5x plus 15, and you substitute 80 in for y, and then you subtract 15 from each side, and you get 65 equals 5x, and then you divide 5 by each side to get x equals 13. For the second question, it is how much money will I have after 8 walks? So you take the equation y equals 5x plus 15, and you substitute 8 in for x, and you get y equals 40 plus 15, and you get y equals 55, so you'll have $55. This is the graph for the equation. The x-axis is the number of walks, and the y-axis is the number of dollars you get for each walk. You plot the points by starting at 15 in the y-axis, while the x-axis is 0, and then each time you increase by 5. There's $500 in the bank. You receive 10% interest annually. The start is 500, and the equation is next equals now times 1.1. The explicit equation is 500 times 1 plus 0.01 to the x power. For the table, you start at 500, and each time you multiply by 1.1. For the first prediction, the question is, how much money will you have in 7 years? So you take the equation y equals 500 times 1 plus 0.1 to the 7th power, and that gets $974.36. For the second question, it is how many years will it take to get $3,000? And for this one, you use your calculator and you type y equals 500 times 1 plus 0.1 to the x power into the y equals in your calculator, and you do second graph, and then you go down in y until it's over $3,000. And the answer is 19 years. This is the graph for the equation. The x-axis is the number of years, and the y-axis is the number of dollars. You start at 0 for the x-axis and 500 for the y-axis, and you go up 110% each time.
The plane starts at 300 feet above sea level. Every hour it descends 25 feet. The now next equation for this equation is next equals now minus 25, because you go down 25 feet each time. The start is 300 because the plane started at 300 feet. Okay, and to get the explicit equation, you take the minus 25 from the noun x and put it as negative 25 in front of x. And then you add the start, which is 300. For the table, you descend 25 feet down each time, so you subtract 25 each time you go. Yeah. The first prediction is where will the plane be in 10 hours? You use the first explicit form equation, which was y equals negative 25x plus 300, and you substitute 10 in for x. So it's y equals negative 25 times 10 plus 300, and you get y equals negative 250 when you times 25, negative 25 times 10 plus 300. And then you get y equals 50 feet. You'll be, after 10 hours, you'll be at 50 feet. The second prediction is if the plane was at sea level, 0 feet, how many hours have passed? So you plug in 0 for y, and y equals negative 25x plus 300, and then you solve for x. So on the right hand of the side of the equation, you subtract 300, and you subtract 300 on the other side, and 0 minus 300 is negative 300, which equals negative 25x. Then you divide by negative 25 on each side. Negative 300 divided by negative 25 is 12. So x equals 12 hours. Okay, so this is the graph for the plane's distance. On the y-axis, it's distance above sea level in feet, and the x-axis is the time in hours. You're going to start at 300 because the plane started at 300 feet, and you're going to go down 25 feet each time because the plane descends 25 feet each time. I have 300 M&Ms. Each hour I ate 5%, and this is rounded to the nearest M&M. The next now equation is next equals now times 0.95. The start is 300. And the explicit equation for this would be y equals 300 times 1 minus 0.05 to the x power. You use the start, and that's what 300 came from. And then 0.95 is just, I already subtracted 1, and that's what you'll get when you do subtract it. And then for the table, you start with 300 and you go down 5% each time. So you times each y value by 0.95 each time. The first prediction was how many M&Ms will there be in 10 hours? You use y equals 300 times 1 minus 0.05 to the x power, and you plug in 10 for x. And then y equals 300 times 1 minus 0.05 to the 10th power. And then you get y equals 300 times 0.95 to the 10th power. And after you times that all, you get y equals 180. The next prediction is if there are 102 M&Ms, how many hours have passed? You use your calculator for this, and you type in the equation y equals 300 times 1 minus 0.05 to the x power, and then you do second graph to get the table, and scroll down till you see 102 M&Ms in the y values, and you find you find that it's 21 hours. This is the graph for the M&Ms eaten. On the y-axis, we have the M&Ms, the number of M&Ms, starting at 300 because we started with 300. And then on the x-axis, we have the time in hours. Each time we go down by 95%.